The morning haze settles over a bustling 14th century European town, its narrow streets already alive with the clamour of merchants, craftsmen and labourers. It's around 1350 and you step through the town's wooden gates, your worn leather shoes sinking into the muddy, refuse-strewn path. The air assaults your senses with a noxious blend of rotting food, human waste and the sharp tang of animal dung, a stench that clings to your coarse woolen tunic or kirtle. This is no pastoral village but a crowded urban hub where thousands cram into tightly packed timber houses, their thatched roofs sagging under the weight of rain and neglect. The streets, unpaved and churned by hooves and cartwheels, are a chaotic stew of filth where every step risks slipping into muck or worse. As a townsfolk, perhaps a weaver, a peddler, or a servant, you navigate this grimy maze where the lack of sanitation shapes every aspect of life, from the food you eat to the air you breathe, plunging you into a world where survival demands resilience against the disgusting truth of medieval streets. The town is a dense warren, its layout a tangle of alleys and thoroughfares barely wide enough for a cart to pass. Houses lean over the streets, their upper stories jutting out to steal space from the sky, casting shadows that keep the ground damp and slick. The buildings are timber-framed, their walls plastered with mud and straw, often crumbling to add dust to the street's mess. Windows, if they exist, are small and shuttered, their wooden slats doing little to block the stench that rises from below. The streets themselves are a patchwork of mud, gravel and refuse, their surfaces rutted by traffic and weather. Rain turns them into quagmires, sucking at your shoes, while dry spells harden the muck into uneven clumps, tripping the unwary. Cobblestones are rare, reserved for wealthier quarters or the Lord's manor, leaving most streets a raw, earthy chaos. The sensory overload is immediate and unrelenting. The air is thick with odours, rotting vegetables from market stalls, the sour reek of urine from chamber pots tossed from windows, the heavy musk of livestock driven through the streets. Pigs, chickens and stray dogs root through piles of garbage, their squeals and barks mingling with the shouts of hawkers and the creak of cartwheels. The clatter of hooves on mud, the clang of a blacksmith's hammer, and the chatter of townsfolk haggling over goods create a cacophony that drowns out any hope of quiet. Your eyes sting from the dust kicked up by passers-by or the smoke from open fires, while your skin prickles with the grime that settles on it, a gritty film that no amount of wiping can remove. Every step is a gamble, your feet dodging puddles of foul water or slick patches of waste, the ground a living record of the town's disregard for cleanliness. The people around you are as diverse as the filth they tread through. Merchants in brightly dyed cloaks shout their wares, fish, bread or cloth, while their stalls spill peels, bones and scraps onto the street. Labourers, their tunics stained with sweat and mud, haul barrels or sacks, their shoulders bowed under the weight. Women in long kirtles weave through the crowd, balancing baskets of laundry or produce, their steps careful to avoid slipping. Children dart underfoot, chasing hoops or scavenging scraps, their bare feet caked with dirt, their laughter a fleeting note in the chaos. Beggars huddle in doorways, their rags blending with the street's grime, their hands outstretched for a crust or coin. Even the wealthier townsfolk in finer linen or fur cannot escape the muck, their shoes as soiled as yours by day's end, though their servants might scrub them clean. The lack of sanitation is the root of this filth, a problem born of overcrowding and ignorance. The town, swelling with traders, craftsmen and refugees from rural hardship, has no system to manage its waste. Human excrement is a constant issue. Chamber pots, emptied from upper windows, splatter the streets below, their contents mixing with mud to form a foul sludge. Some households dig cesspits in their yards, but these overflow in rain, their contents seeping into alleys or nearby streams. Public latrines, where they exist, are crude wooden structures over ditches, their stench a beacon that draws flies and rats. The wealthier might have private privies, but most rely on the street or a shared pit, their waste adding to the communal mire. Night soil collectors, tasked with carting away excrement, are few and poorly paid, their barrels often spilling as they trudge through the town. Animal waste compounds the problem, as livestock are a fixture of urban life. Pigs roam freely, rooting through garbage piles, their droppings scattered across the streets. Horses, pulling carts or carrying merchants, leave steaming piles that are trampled into the mud. Chickens and geese, kept in yards or driven to market, add their own filth, their feathers and dung caught in the breeze. Butchers and tanners, working in open yards, toss offal, blood, guts and bones into the streets, where it rots or is scavenged by dogs. The market square, the town's heart, is a chaos of discarded fish heads, vegetable peels and spoiled fruit, the ground slick with their juices, attracting swarms of flies that buzz around your face as you pass. Water, vital for life, is a source of filth rather than cleanliness. The town's streams or wells, used for drinking, washing and industry, are fouled by runoff from streets and cesspits. Tanners soak hides in vats of urine and lime, their waste draining into nearby watercourses, while dyers dump vivid sludges of indigo or madder staining the flow. Households toss kitchen scraps, grease, bones or soured milk into streams, their surfaces shimmering with oil or scum. Wells, often near latrines, draw up water tainted with what lies below, its taste bitter, its clarity a memory. Bathing is rare, reserved for the wealthy or special days, and laundry, washed in the same foul streams, returns as dirty as it left. Your own water, carried in a bucket from a communal well, is cloudy, sipped sparingly to avoid the flux that fells neighbours. The streets are a marketplace of chaos where trade and filth intertwine. The central square buzzes with stalls selling bread, fish or wool, their vendors shouting over the din of buyers and carts. Fishmongers gut their catch on the spot, scales and entrails piling up, while bakers sweep crumbs and ash from their ovens onto the ground. Fruit sellers, their baskets brimming with apples or plums, let bruised rejects rot underfoot, their sweetness mingling with the stench of decay. The ground is a mosaic of waste, fish bones, apple cores and crusts, trampled by shoppers and scavenged by rats. The market's energy is vital, its goods the town's lifeblood, but its refuse feeds the street's filth, a cycle unbroken by the town's rudimentary efforts at order. The feudal hierarchy shapes this mess, its rules dictating who suffers most. The lord, residing in a stone manor or castle on the town's edge, escapes the worst, his household's waste carted away or dumped far from his walls. Wealthy merchants and guildmasters in larger homes with private privies fare better, their servants tasked with cleaning or fetching clean water. But for you, a weaver, a labourer or a servant, the streets are your daily path, their filth inescapable. The town's officials, like the bailiff or alderman, issue decrees against dumping waste, but enforcement is lax, their own homes spared the worst. The poorest, living in hovels or alleys, bear the brunt, their doorsteps a mire of refuse, their children playing in the same muck that breeds disease. The church, looming over the town with its stone spire, offers little relief. Its priests preach cleanliness as godliness, but their cloisters are cleaner than your streets, their wells less tainted. Tithes, paid in grain or coin, fund their comfort while you dodge the waste from their latrines, which drain into the same streams you use. Religious festivals bring crowds to the streets, their offerings of food or flowers adding to the litter, their processions churning the mud. The churchyard, a patch of green amid the grime, is a refuge, but even its edges are fouled by overflow from nearby cesspits. Its sanctity no match for the town's filth. The sensory world is a relentless assault. The air smells of rot and dung, sweetened only by the fleeting scent of fresh bread or herbs from a stall. The streets glisten with mud, their surfaces slick with waste or water, reflecting the torchlight that flickers at night. Sounds are unending. The squeal of pigs, the shout of hawkers, the splash of a chamber pot emptied above. Your clothes, coarse wool or linen, are heavy with grime, their hems caked with mud, their fibers holding the street's stench. Your hands, rough from work, pick up the dirt of every surface, cart handles, market baskets, or the door of your home. Hunger drives you to the market, but the food you buy, bread, fish, or onions, is dusted with the street's filth, its taste tinged with the air's reek. The fragility of this life is stark. The street's a constant threat. Disease lurks in every puddle, every pile of waste. It's spread unchecked by the town's chaos. You've seen neighbours sicken from fouled water, their faces pale, their bodies racked by flux or fever. Children playing in the muck fall to ailments no healer can cure, their graves crowding the churchyard. The filth is a tax on survival, its weight heavier on the poor who lack the means to escape it. Yet the town thrives, its markets buzzing, its crafts feeding distant lands, its people enduring despite the grime. As you navigate the streets, dodging carts and waste, you carry the resilience of those who walked these paths, their lives shaped by the disgusting truth of medieval streets. The day presses on, and you move through the town, your steps careful, your senses battered by the filth around you. The market square hums, the church bell tolls, the streets pulse with life and decay. The lack of sanitation, the crush of people, the weight of feudal rules, all conspire to make the streets a mire, a challenge you meet with every step. This is your world, a place of chaos and survival, where the filth underfoot is as much a part of life as the bread you eat or the work you do. For now, you press forward, the town's grime a constant companion, your endurance a quiet defiance in a world where every clean step is a small victory. As midday casts a harsh light over the 14th century European town, you weave through its crowded streets, the morning's sensory assault of stench and noise now a familiar burden. It's around 1350, and as a townsfolk, perhaps a weaver trudging to the market or a labourer hauling goods, you tread carefully to avoid the slick patches of waste that define this urban maze. Having entered the town's chaotic, filth-strewn paths, you now confront the sources of this grime, a relentless tide of human and animal waste, household garbage, and industrial runoff from markets and workshops. The air is heavy with the reek of decay, the sharp bite of tannery sludge, and the faint sweetness of rotting fruit, each scent a clue to the town's sanitation woes. With no sewers or organised waste disposal, the streets are a dumping ground, their muck a product of daily life, commerce, and the feudal order's indifference. This segment delves into the origins of the town's filth, revealing how every activity, from cooking to crafting, feeds the mire, shaping a world where cleanliness is a fleeting dream. Human waste is the primary contributor to the street's filth, a constant flow born of necessity and neglect. The town, swollen with thousands of residents, lacks any centralized system to manage excrement. Most households rely on chamber pots, clay or wooden vessels filled nightly, their contents tossed from upper windows with a shouted warning if you're lucky. The streets below catch the splatter, the waste mixing with mud to form a viscous sludge that clings to your shoes. Wealthier homes might have privies, wooden seats over cesspits in the yard, but these are rare, and even they overflow in rain, their contents seeping into alleys or nearby streams. Public latrines, where they exist, are crude, often just planks over open ditches, their stench drawing flies and rats in droves. You've learned to hold your breath as you pass, your steps quick to avoid the worst patches, but the smell lingers, a sour tang that coats your throat. Cesspits, dug in backyards or shared by several households, are a common solution, but they're far from effective. Digging one is labour-intensive, the earth hacked with a spade, the pit lined with straw or left bare. They fill quickly, especially in crowded quarters, and emptying them is a grim task. Night soil collectors, low-status labourers, cart the waste to fields or rivers, their barrels leaking as they trudge through the streets, adding to the filth. The cost of their service is steep. So many households skip it, letting cesspits overflow or dumping pots directly into alleys. Rain washes this waste into low-lying streets, creating puddles that shimmer with oil and excrement, their surface alive with flies. You've seen children splash through these, unaware of the danger, their bare feet carrying the grime back to their homes, spreading sickness you can't name. Animal waste is another relentless source, as livestock are woven into the town's daily life. Pigs roam freely, their snuffling a constant as they root through garbage piles, their droppings scattered across the streets. You dodge their filth as you walk, their squeals echoing from alleys where they feast on scraps. Horses, pulling carts or carrying merchants, leave steaming piles that are quickly trampled into the mud, their stench mixing with the air's already foul brew. Chickens and geese, driven to market or kept in yards, scatter feathers and dung, their clucking a backdrop to the town's din. Oxen, used for heavy loads, add their own contribution, their massive hooves churning the streets into a deeper mire. The sheer volume of animals, hundreds in a town of thousands, ensures that every path is littered with their waste, a gritty layer that sticks to your clothes and skin. Household garbage piles up alongside human and animal waste, a chaotic mix of food scraps, broken pottery, and worn-out goods. Cooking, a daily necessity, generates peels from onions or turnips, bones from a rare bit of fish or chicken, and grease from a pot of pottage, all tossed into the street or a nearby ditch. Your own hut, cramped and smoky, produces its share: cabbage leaves, oat husks, or soured milk, dumped outside when the fire dies down. Pottery shards, cracked from use, and rags too worn to mend join the heap, their edges sharp underfoot. Wealthier households add more: spoiled fruit, stale bread, or torn cloth, their refuse piling higher as they consume more than you could dream. No one collects this garbage regularly. It sits, rotting in the sun or dissolving in rain, its stench a sickly sweet note in the air's foul symphony. The market square, the town's pulsing heart, is a major source of filth, its activity a magnet for waste. Stalls line the streets, their wooden tables laden with fish, bread or vegetables, their vendors shouting to draw a crowd. Fishmongers gut their catch on the spot, scales and entrails spilling onto the ground, their slimy residue slick underfoot. Bakers sweep crumbs and ash from their ovens, adding to the dust that swirls in the breeze. Fruit sellers, their baskets brimming with apples or plums, let bruised rejects rot, their juices staining the mud, attracting wasps that buzz around your face. Butchers, working in open stalls, toss offal, blood, guts and bones, into the street where dogs and rats scavenge, their snarls a warning to steer clear. The market's waste, trampled by shoppers and carts, spreads across the square, its decay feeding the town's ever-present stench. Industrial activities clustered in the town's workshops add a toxic layer to the street's filth. Tanners, working in yards near the river, soak hides in vats of urine and lime, their runoff draining into streams or pooling in alleys, its acrid smell burning your nose as you pass. Dyers, crafting vibrant cloth for merchants, dump sludges of madder or woad, their colours staining the ground in vivid streaks of red or blue. Blacksmiths, hammering iron in open forges, scatter ash and slag, their sparks singeing the air, their waste gritty underfoot. Brewers and butchers, spilling yeast or blood, add their own mess, their workshops leaking into the streets. These trades, vital to the town's economy, are a constant source of pollution, their byproducts mixing with mud to create a sludge that clogs paths and fouls water sources. Waterways meant to cleanse instead amplify the filth. The town's streams or rivers, used for drinking, washing and industry, are choked with refuse. Households dump kitchen scraps, grease, bones or spoiled milk into the flow, their surfaces shimmering with oil. Tanners and dyers add their waste, turning clear water murky, its taste bitter with chemicals. Cesspits, often dug near streams, leak in rain, their contents swirling downstream to where you draw water for cooking. Wells sunk in crowded quarters pull up water tainted by nearby latrines, their buckets heavy with cloudy liquid you sip cautiously. The river, a lifeline, is also a sewer, its banks littered with debris, its current carrying the town's sins to the next village. You've learned to boil water when you can, but fuel is scarce, and the risk of flux or fever is ever present. The feudal order exacerbates the problem, its structure ensuring the streets remain foul. The lord, perched in his manor, has little stake in the town's sanitation, his household's waste carted away or dumped far from his walls. Wealthy merchants with private privies or paid collectors escape the worst, their homes cleaner than yours. But for you, a weaver, a peddler, or a labourer, the streets are your daily gauntlet, their filth unavoidable. Town officials issue decrees against dumping waste, but fines are rarely enforced, and the bailiff's focus is on taxes, not cleanliness. The church, preaching purity, does little. Its cloisters spared the streets' muck, its priests sipping from less tainted wells. The poor, crammed into hovels, suffer most. Their doorsteps are mire, their children wading through the same filth that breeds sickness. The village, though smaller, shares the town's struggle, its streets muddy but less crowded. Rural folk dump waste in fields or streams, their livestock adding to the mess, but the open air dilutes the stench. In the town, density amplifies the problem, each household's refuse piling onto the next. The streets, a shared dumping ground. Neighbours might cooperate, sweeping a shared alley or sharing a cesspit, but trust is thin. Disputes over who cleans what flare, and theft of scarce resources like firewood or clean water sours relations. Women, tasked with cleaning or fetching water, bear the brunt, their hands raw from scrubbing pots in foul streams. Men, hauling goods or working crafts, track mud and waste into homes, their labour feeding the cycle of filth. The sensory world is a relentless assault, each source of filth adding its own note. The air reeks of excrement and rotting fish, softened only by the fleeting scent of fresh straw or herbs from a stall. The streets glisten with mud and waste, their surfaces slick, reflecting torchlight at dusk. Sounds hum, the grunt of pigs, the splash of a chamber pot, the creak of a tanner's vat being stirred. Your clothes, wool or linen, are heavy with grime, their hems caked, their fibres holding the street's stench. Your hands, rough from work, pick up the dirt of every surface, cart handles, market goods, or your own door. Hunger drives you to buy food dusted with the street's filth, its taste tinged with decay, a reminder of the town's unyielding mess. The fragility of this life is stark, the street's filth a constant threat. Disease lurks in every puddle, every pile of waste, its spread unchecked by the town's chaos. You've seen neighbours fall to fever or flux, their bodies weakened by fouled water or food. Children playing in the muck sicken quickly, their graves a growing patch in the churchyard. The filth is a tax on survival, its weight heavier on the poor who lack the means to escape it. Yet the town endures, its markets thriving, its crafts feeding distant lands, its people pressing on. As you navigate the streets, dodging carts and waste, you carry the resilience of those who walked these paths, their lives shaped by the disgusting truth of medieval streets. The day wears on, and you press through the market, the stench of fish and dung thick in your nose. The town pulses, merchants shouting, carts creaking, pigs rooting, its life inseparable from its filth. The sources of this muck, human waste, animal dung, market scraps and industrial runoff, are the town's heartbeat, each adding to the mire you tread. Your steps are careful, your senses battered, but you move forward, a townsfolk in a world where the street's grime is as constant as the labour that defines your days. The afternoon sun hangs low over the 14th century European town, its rays struggling to pierce the haze of dust and smoke that cloaks the bustling streets. It's around 1350, and as a townsfolk, perhaps a cobbler hurrying to deliver boots or a servant fetching water, you navigate the filthy thoroughfares, their surfaces slick with the human, animal and industrial waste explored earlier. Having traced the sources of this muck, you now face the daily challenge of living within it, each step a dance to avoid slipping into the mire of mud, excrement and market refuse. The air hums with the stench of rotting scraps and the sharp tang of tannery runoff, while the clamour of vendors, carts and livestock fills your ears. Your woolen tunic or kirtle, already heavy with grime, snags on a splintered cart as you move, a reminder of the town's unrelenting filth. This segment immerses you in the routines of daily life, shopping, working, socializing, where every task is shaped by the disgusting reality of medieval streets, demanding resilience to thrive amid the chaos. The streets are the town's arteries, pulsing with activity from dawn to dusk. You begin your day early, stepping out of your timber-framed home into an alley thick with mud and waste. The path to the market square is narrow, hemmed by leaning houses whose upper stories block the light, keeping the ground damp and treacherous. Your shoes, leather if you're lucky, wooden clogs if not, sink into the muck, each step a squelch that sends up a whiff of decay. The streets twist unpredictably, their layout a legacy of haphazard growth with no clear plan to guide you. Landmarks, a crooked signpost, a butcher's blood-stained stall, mark your way, but the filth is a constant obstacle, forcing you to weave around puddles of foul water or piles of dung left by passing horses. Shopping is a necessity, drawing you to the market square where stalls crowd the open space. The air is alive with vendors' shouts, offering fish, bread, or wool, their voices competing with the bleat of goats and the clatter of carts. You approach a fishmonger's stall, its table slick with scales, the ground beneath littered with entrails that draw flies. Bargaining for a perch, you brush away insects, your hands brushing the stall's damp wood, its surface gritty with street dust. Nearby, a baker's oven spills ash and crumbs, adding to the square's litter, while a fruit seller's discarded apple cores rot underfoot, their sweetness lost in the stench. You clutch your purchases, a loaf, a fish, a few onions, in a cloth sack, careful to avoid dropping them into the mud, knowing the street's filth taints everything it touches. Work pulls you through the streets, whether you're a craftsman, a labourer, or a servant. As a cobbler, you carry a bundle of repaired shoes to a merchant's home, dodging a pig rooting in a pile of garbage, its squeal sharp as you pass. The street to the wealthier quarter is slightly better, gravel underfoot instead of mud, but still fouled by waste from nearby hovels. If you're a labourer, you haul barrels of ale or sacks of grain, your shoulders aching as you navigate ruts carved by cartwheels, your boots slipping on slick patches of offal. Servants, sent to fetch water or deliver messages, wade through alleys where chamber pots have been emptied, the splash of waste a constant hazard. Each task requires vigilance, your eyes scanning the ground, your steps measured to avoid a fall that could ruin your goods or your day. Socializing happens in the streets, as homes are cramped and dark. The tavern, a low-ceilinged room near the market, is a hub, its floor sticky with spilled ale and its air thick with smoke. You share a bench with neighbours, sipping weak ale from a shared cup, its bitter taste mingling with the street's stench that clings to your clothes. Gossip flows, news of a failed crop, a thief caught, or a festival planned, but the conversation pauses when a cart rumbles by, its wheels spraying mud. Women gather at the communal well, their buckets heavy with cloudy water, their chatter about recipes or births punctuated by warnings to dodge a passing ox. Children play in the streets, chasing hoops or tossing stones, their bare feet caked with filth, their laughter a fleeting joy in the grime. These moments of connection, though vital, are tainted by the street's mess, their filth a shared burden. The streets shape every routine, forcing adaptations to survive their hazards. Footwear is a constant concern. Leather shoes wear out quickly, their soles thin against sharp debris, while wooden clogs, though sturdy, slip on wet mud. You wrap rags around your feet in winter, their damp weight adding to the chill, and mend them with scraps when they tear. Crossing the street means choosing the least foul path, often a raised plank or a line of stones, though these are rare and crowded. You've learned to lift your hem or tuck your cloak to avoid dragging it through the muck, a habit that saves your clothes but not your dignity. Carrying goods, bread, cloth or tools, requires a tight grip, as a slip into the mire means loss or spoilage, a blow you can't afford. The market square is both a lifeline and a gauntlet. Buying food means navigating a crowd of townsfolk, their elbows jostling as you haggle over a cabbage or a loaf. The ground is a hazard, slippery with fish guts, sticky with fruit juice, or gritty with ash from a baker's oven. You've seen a dropped onion roll into a puddle of waste, its owner cursing as they retrieve it, knowing it's too precious to discard. Sellers, aware of the filth, perch their wares on high tables, but dust and flies settle on everything, tainting the bread you buy or the fish you carry home. The market's chaos is a necessity, its goods feeding your family, but each visit is a test of endurance, your senses battered by the sights and smells of decay. Work routines are equally shaped by the street's conditions. Craftsmen, like weavers or smiths, set up shops near the market, their doorways opening onto alleys thick with refuse. You sweep your threshold daily, but the muck creeps back, carried by customers or wind. Labourers, hauling goods to the docks or manor, trudge through the worst streets, their loads swaying as they dodge ruts or animals. Servants, running errands for wealthier households, face the added indignity of carrying clean linens or food through filthy alleys, their employers' demands blind to the street's reality. The town's economy thrives on this movement, but the filth slows every step, its weight a tax on your time and strength. Social spaces, like the tavern or church steps, are no cleaner. The tavern's floor, strewn with straw, soaks up spilled ale and mud from boots, its air heavy with the stench of unwashed bodies and nearby latrines. You sit close to neighbours, your shoulder brushing theirs, the warmth of company a comfort, but the filth follows you inside, clinging to your cloak. The church, a stone refuge, offers a cleaner yard, but its edges are fouled by overflow from nearby cesspits, and festival crowds churn the streets into deeper mud. You join processions for saints' days, your feet sinking into the mire, your prayers for health tinged with the irony of the filth around you. These gatherings bind the town, but the street's grime is a constant intruder, dulling every moment of connection. The feudal hierarchy amplifies the struggle as the wealthy evade the worst of the streets. The lord's manor, on higher ground, has cleaner paths, its waste carted away by servants. Merchants, with private courtyards, step over the filth more easily, their boots cleaned by others. But for you, the streets are unavoidable, their muck a daily reality. Town officials, tasked with order, issue rules, dump waste at night, keep pigs penned, but enforcement is weak, their own homes spared the worst. The poor, in hovels near the town's edge, live in the deepest mire, their alleys flooded with runoff from wealthier quarters. Women, fetching water or washing, wade through the filth, their hands raw from scrubbing in fouled streams. Children, playing in the muck, carry it home, spreading its dangers to every corner. The sensory world is a vivid assault, each routine steeped in the street's filth. The air smells of dung and rotting fish, softened only by the faint scent of bread from a stall. The streets shimmer with mud, their surfaces slick with waste, catching the sun's glare. Sounds are relentless, the creak of carts, the shout of vendors, the splash of a chamber pot from above. Your clothes, wool or linen, are heavy with grime, their hems caked, their fibres holding the town's stench. Your hands, rough from work, pick up the dirt of every surface, market baskets, door handles, or a child's hand. Hunger drives you to eat food dusted with the street's filth, its taste tinged with decay, a constant reminder of the town's mess. The fragility of this life is stark, the streets a threat to body and spirit. Disease hides in every puddle, every scrap of tainted food, its spread fueled by the town's chaos. You've seen neighbours sicken from fouled water, their faces pale, their bodies racked by flux. Children, darting through the muck, fall to fevers, their graves crowding the churchyard. The filth is a tax on survival, its weight heavier on the poor, who lack the means to escape it. Yet you endure your routines, shopping, working, socializing, a defiance of the grime. The town thrives, its markets buzzing, its crafts feeding distant lands, its people pressing on despite the street's disgusting truth. As evening nears, you return home, your sack of market goods heavy, your shoes caked with mud. The streets quiet, the market stalls emptying, the air still thick with stench. The routines of daily life, buying food, working, meeting neighbors, are inseparable from the filth, each task a test of resilience. You've navigated the muck, dodged the hazards, carried on, a townsfolk in a world where the street's grime is as constant as the labor that defines your days. For now, you step into your hut, the hearth's faint glow a small refuge, your life a quiet triumph over the disgusting reality of medieval streets. The late afternoon sun dips toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the 14th century European town, its streets still bustling with the clamour of daily life. It's around 1350, and as a townsfolk, perhaps a baker unloading loaves or a servant hurrying with a message, you tread the filthy paths, their muck of human waste, animal dung, and market refuse a constant hazard navigated through your routines. Having lived amidst this grime, dodging chamber pots and wading through mud, you now face its deadliest consequence: disease. The air carries the sour stench of decay, the sharp bite of tannery sludge, and the faint sweetness of rotting fruit, each breath a reminder of the street's toxic brew. With no sanitation to curb the filth, these thoroughfares are breeding grounds for illness, plague, dysentery, and fevers that strike without warning. This segment explores the health hazards of the town's unsanitary conditions, the limited medical knowledge that fails to counter them, and the devastating toll on lives, revealing a world where survival is a fragile victory against the ever-present threat of sickness. The street's filth is a silent killer, its dangers lurking in every puddle and pile of refuse, human waste, tossed from windows or overflowing from cesspits, pools in alleys, its surface alive with flies that carry unseen threats. These insects, buzzing around your face as you walk, land on food in market stalls, spreading sickness from waste to bread or fish. Animal dung, pigs rooting in garbage, horses leaving steaming piles, adds to the mire, its bacteria seeping into the mud you tread through, clinging to your shoes and hands. Market scraps, from fish entrails to spoiled vegetables, rot underfoot, their decay a feast for rats that scurry through the streets, their fleas a hidden menace. The town's streams, used for drinking and washing, are fouled by runoff from cesspits and tanneries, their water cloudy with waste, each sip a risk of illness you can't avoid. Dysentery, known as the flux, is a common scourge, its spread tied to the contaminated water and food you rely on. Drinking from a well near a latrine or eating bread dusted with street grime can bring on cramps, fever, and relentless diarrhea, leaving you weak and dehydrated. You've seen neighbours doubled over, their faces pale, their strength sapped in days, some never rising from their straw pallets. Children with fragile bodies are hit hardest, their small frames unable to withstand the flux's toll, their graves a growing patch in the churchyard. The disease spreads in crowded quarters where families share tight spaces, a single sick child infecting a household, the lack of clean water or cloth to wash hands sealing their fate. The plague, a spectre that haunts every town, is the deadliest threat, its arrival a nightmare whispered in markets and taverns. The Black Death, sweeping through Europe in the 1340s, lingers in memory, its return feared with every cough or fever. Fleas, carried by rats that thrive in the street's filth, spread the pestilence, their bites leaving swollen sores and blackened skin. You've heard tales of entire streets falling silent, bodies carted to mass graves, the air thick with the stench of death. Even lesser plagues, sweating sickness or smallpox, strike without warning, their symptoms fever, rash or chills, their spread fueled by the town's density and lack of sanitation. You avoid the sick when you can, but the streets force you close, their grime a constant link to those already ill. Other diseases, less dramatic but no less deadly, flourish in the filth. Cholera, tied to fouled water, brings vomiting and weakness, its victims collapsing in hours if untreated. Typhoid fever, spread through tainted food or drink, lingers for weeks, its victims sweating and delirious, their recovery uncertain. Skin infections from cuts or sores exposed to the street's muck fester quickly, turning minor wounds into oozing threats, especially in summer's heat. You've bandaged your own cuts with rags, their edges frayed and dirty, knowing infection could mean death. Respiratory ailments, coughs or lung fevers spread in the smoky air of crowded homes, the street's dust and smoke worsening every breath. These illnesses, born of the town's unsanitary conditions, are a tax on survival, their toll heaviest on the poor. Medical knowledge is rudimentary, offering little defense against the street's dangers. Healers, often barbers or herbalists, rely on tradition rather than science. Their remedies a mix of herbs, prayers, and guesswork. For dysentery, you might be given a tea of chamomile or yarrow. Its bitterness a faint comfort, but it rarely stops the flux's grip. Plague victims are bled with leeches or knives, the practice weakening them further, their bodies already frail. Poultices of honey or onion applied to sores might draw out infection, but their success is spotty and clean cloth is scarce. Priests offer prayers to saints like Roche or Sebastian, their chants echoing in the church, but divine aid feels distant when fever burns. You've seen healers fail, their patients buried before the week's end, their skills no match for the filth that breeds disease. The town's density amplifies these health hazards, turning every street into a vector for illness. Homes, packed tightly, share walls and air, a cough spreading from one family to the next. The market square, where you buy food or sell wares, is a hub of contagion, its crowds pressing close, their breath mingling with the stench of refuse. Taverns, where you seek respite, are no safer, their benches crowded, their floors sticky with ale and grime. Even the church, a refuge for prayer, draws crowds that spread sickness, its stone walls no barrier to fleas or coughs. You've learned to cover your mouth or avoid the sick, but the streets make isolation impossible. Their filth a shared burden that binds the town in sickness. Children are the most vulnerable, their bodies succumbing quickly to the street's dangers. Playing in alleys, they splash through puddles of waste, their bare feet carrying filth home. A cut from a shard of pottery or a thorn can fester, turning feverish in days. You've seen parents weep as their child, lively at dawn, lies still by dusk, their small grave dug in the churchyard's crowded soil. Infants, nursed on milk from malnourished mothers, weaken easily, their cries fading in homes where clean water is a luxury. The loss of a child is a wound you carry, their absence a reminder of the street's relentless toll, their memory etched in every cautious step you take. The poor bear the brunt of these hazards, their lives entwined with the street's worst filth. Huddled in hovels near the town's edge, they live where runoff from wealthier quarters pools, their doorsteps a mire of waste. Their water, drawn from the foulest wells, carries disease, and their food, scraps or stale bread, is dusted with the street's grime. Wealthier townsfolk with private privies or paid water carriers fare better, their homes cleaner, their diets less tainted. The Lord's manor on higher ground escapes the worst, its waste carted away, its wells less fouled. But for you, the streets are inescapable, their filth a daily gauntlet, their diseases a threat you face with every breath or bite. The feudal order worsens the crisis, its priorities blind to the town's health. Town officials, tasked with order, focus on taxes, not sanitation, their decrees against dumping waste ignored or unenforced. The Lord, safe in his manor, cares little for the streets, his wealth built on your labour, not your survival. The church, preaching cleanliness as godliness, offers no practical aid, its priests sipping from cleaner wells, their tithes draining your resources. Guilds, protecting craftsmen, might fund a well or latrine, but only for their own, leaving the poor to wade through the muck. You've heard of fines for fouling the streets, but they're rarely levied, and the bailiff's eye is on coin, not cleanliness, leaving the filth to fester. The sensory world is a grim tapestry, each disease tied to the street's filth. The air reeks of excrement and rot, its stench a warning of unseen threats. The streets glisten with mud and waste, their surfaces slick, their puddles alive with flies. Sounds hum, the buzz of insects, the cough of a passerby, the splash of a cart through a foul pool. Your clothes, wool or linen, are heavy with grime, their hems caked, their fibres holding the town's stench. Your hands, rough from work, pick up the dirt of every surface, market goods, door handles, or a child's fevered brow. Food, bought from dusty stalls, carries the street's taint, its taste bitter with decay, each bite a risk you can't avoid. The fragility of life is stark, the streets a crucible for disease. You've buried neighbours, their faces gaunt from flux, their bodies carted to graves before the fever broke. Children playing in the muck sicken quickly, their laughter silenced by fever or rash. The plague's shadow looms, its memory a chill in every crowded market. Medical remedies, herbs, bleeding, prayers, fail more often than they cure, their cost a burden you can't bear. Yet the town endures, its markets thriving, its people pressing on. You navigate the streets, your steps cautious, your heart heavy with the toll of those lost to the filth's unseen killers. The day fades, and you return to your hut, the street's stench clinging to your clothes, the fear of sickness a quiet weight. The market quiets, the church bell tolls, the town settles into dusk. The health hazards of the streets, dysentery, plague, fevers, are a constant threat, their spread fueled by the filth you can't escape. Your life, a weave of work and survival, is shaped by this grim reality. Each day a fight against the diseases that lurk in the muck. For now, you rest by the hearth, the town's pulse slowing, your resilience a quiet defiance in a world where every breath is a gamble against the disgusting truth of medieval streets. The evening shadows lengthen across the 14th century European town as the last light of day struggles through the smoky haze that perpetually shrouds these narrow, fetid streets. It's around 1350, and as a townsfolk, perhaps a weary merchant closing your stall or a labourer trudging home, you reflect on another day survived in this world of muck and disease. The air still carries its familiar cocktail of stenches, human waste, rotting market scraps, and the acrid bite of tannery runoff, each breath a testament to your endurance. Having witnessed the sources of filth, lived amidst the grime, and faced the constant spectre of disease, you embody the quiet resilience that defines medieval urban life. This final chapter explores how communities adapted to their harsh reality, finding ways to persist, even thrive, despite the disgusting truth that shaped their daily existence. Survival in these streets demands a pragmatic acceptance of filth as an inescapable reality. You've learned to read the ground like a map, the glisten of fresh waste to avoid, the firm patches of older muck that offer steadier footing, the telltale shimmer of tannery runoff that burns the nose. Your leather shoes, patched and repatched, bear the scars of countless journeys through this urban maze, their soles worn thin by the constant scraping against stone and debris. The hem of your woolen tunic, permanently stained and caked with mud, tells the story of your adaptation, lifted carefully when crossing the worst patches, tucked securely when carrying precious goods. Community bonds strengthen in the face of shared hardship. Neighbours who might otherwise remain strangers unite in small acts of mutual aid, a shouted warning about an emptied chamber pot, a shared plank laid across a particularly treacherous puddle, or the informal cooperation of several households to dig a communal cesspit. Women gathering at the well become allies in the daily struggle for clean water, sharing knowledge about which sources run clearest and warning each other when sickness strikes a household. These relationships, forged in the crucible of urban filth, create networks of survival that transcend the feudal hierarchy's rigid boundaries. The town's economic engine continues to turn despite the obstacles. Markets still bustle with trade, their vitality undimmed by the muck underfoot. Craftsmen adapt their workshops to the conditions. Tanners position their vats to drain away from foot traffic. Bakers elevate their ovens to keep ash from mixing with street mud, and merchants learn to display their finest wares high above the reach of splashing carts. The very filth that threatens health also fuels certain trades. Night soil collectors, though scorned, earn steady coin. Soap makers find ready customers among those who can afford their wares. And healers, however limited their knowledge, never lack for patients seeking relief from street-borne ailments. Innovation emerges from desperation. Some households pool resources to hire carters who haul waste to distant fields, turning necessity into early forms of organized sanitation. Wealthier quarters experiment with raised wooden walkways, creating elevated paths above the worst mire. Guilds, protecting their members' interests, begin to establish stricter rules about waste disposal near workshops, laying groundwork for future urban planning. These small improvements, though limited in scope, represent humanity's eternal drive to better its conditions, even incrementally. The Church, despite its limitations, provides both spiritual solace and practical refuge. The stone floors of the cathedral offer respite from the street's chaos, their swept surfaces a stark contrast to the mire outside. Religious festivals, while adding to the street's chaos, also bring communities together in shared purpose, their processions a collective assertion of life's value despite its harsh conditions. The churchyard, with its patches of grass and graves of loved ones, becomes a space of relative cleanliness and reflection where you can briefly escape the sensory assault of urban life. Children, though vulnerable to disease, also embody the town's hope and adaptability. Those who survive the dangers of street life develop remarkable resilience, their immune systems strengthened by constant exposure, their spirits undaunted by conditions that might crush adult newcomers. They create games from the chaos, racing across the cleanest paths, building dams in the muck, or fashioning toys from market scraps. Their laughter, rising above the perpetual din of commerce and complaint, serves as a reminder that human joy persists even in the most challenging circumstances. As seasons change, so do the street's character and challenges. Winter freezes the muck into treacherous, uneven terrain, but also reduces the stench and slows the spread of some diseases. Spring thaws bring flooding and fresh waves of filth, but also the promise of renewal. Summer intensifies every smell and accelerates decay, yet provides longer daylight hours for commerce and social life. Autumn's rains wash some filth away while creating new mud, the cycle eternal and inescapable. The memory of better times, or at least different hardships, lingers in the stories passed between generations. Grandparents speak of rural villages where waste fertilized fields rather than fouling streets, where streams ran clearer and air smelled of growing crops rather than human waste. Yet these same elders acknowledge the opportunities that town life provides, the chance to learn trades, participate in markets, and escape the grinding poverty of rural serfdom. The filth, then, becomes a price paid for possibility, a trade-off accepted by those seeking something more than subsistence. Your day ends as it began, with careful navigation through streets that remain as dangerous and foul as ever. Yet you've survived another day, earned another meal, maintained another thread in the social fabric that holds the community together. The muck clings to your shoes, the stench to your clothes, but also the satisfaction of endurance, of small victories won through vigilance and adaptation. Tomorrow will bring the same challenges, the same careful stepping around waste, the same cautious sips of questionable water, the same prayers for health in an environment that breeds sickness. But it will also bring the same possibilities: goods to trade, neighbors to aid, children to protect, and life to live fully despite its harsh context. This is the disgusting truth of medieval streets, not just their filth and danger, but the remarkable human capacity to persist, adapt, and find meaning amid the muck. In these narrow, reeking thoroughfares between the piles of waste and pools of stagnant water, ordinary people lived extraordinary lives of quiet courage, their daily survival a testament to the resilience that defines our species. The streets may have been foul, but the human spirit that navigated them remained, against all odds, remarkably clean.